take it away and you can get started.
Yes, thank you. And many of you know we used to do the Greater New York Orchid Show. And when the Greater New York Orchid Show moved from the Bronx Botanic Garden to the Winter Garden, so I actually worked for about 5 years at the World Trade Center, which is next to the Twin Tower. So this is very very dear to heart that when that happened, and I think I should name the orchid for this event. So any suggestion, let me know. And well, so many of you, might be starting the fall season for you, but we're still in the summertime, and the last couple months is actually the peak of one of my favorites Phalaenopsis species, belina. And Jeff, can you kind of scoop the variety of the belina we have today? And belina is sort of like a living treasure, and I'm going to go over in more detail because I'm not even going to do the Violacea. So I'm going to break it up. So next week we do the Violacea. This week we do the belina. Okay. So what's the difference between belina and Violacea? Well, frankly, the now we call belina used to call Violacea, Borneo in the 80s. But because of classification, if you are the old timer, I know Bill Zimmerman probably remember this. We used to call this Violacea Borneo, but now because the classification, this from now on is all belina, and majority of the belina are actually from the Borneo area, island of the Malaysia island. So most of us are very familiar with the really round, big, fat shape. Those are not actually from the wild strain. It's been over the year of 20 years plus. They were developed for fuller and fatter for the judging purpose, for the American Orchid Society judging. Myself is one of the judge, and we as a judge tend to like there's 33% or plus is 33% is for the form. So of course you want the fuller and fuller. So the pressure or the desire was for them at the time 20-30 years ago for the people in Malaysia to import prior the CITE took effect in the late 70s, the better form, bigger form. So what happened is they actually left the more wild, the very thin petal, I call it the wild strand, in the jungle. And so that's actually a good, because that's why we still have this Montclair form, or the I call wild form. The characteristic for them is they're more, they tend to be more narrow in petal. They're very, and they are actually, because they're more wild, they're not the man improved species. They actually give you more spikes per plant versus some of the tetrapod that we have today. This is more of the tetrapod form. You see the difference? Okay, but this the tetrapod form with more fuller inside, usually have only give you one spike versus the wild strand. So I has been reintroduced the wild strand in asking people from the private collective in Malaysia and to send us dry seed. And so because a lot of the, even though I don't believe you can find any more wild belina in the jungle of Malaysia anymore, but there's a lot of private collector in Malaysia, you know, in the private collection. They just basically just mount it on the wood, and they're still there. So one of the best way to grow belina, I cannot mount thing on the prat, because in California where I am, it's really dry. I'm still in today. We still have about, right as we're speaking, outside is about 98 to almost 100 degrees. In the greenhouse by the water here is about 85. So it's kind of hot and dry. So with not much air movement, it's hard to keep the humidity high enough if I mount it on the wood or the prat. So that make your own judgment. Depending on where you live. If you go under light, the moss is better. If you still can mount them, but you almost have to mix them every day or several times a day. But the best way to grow them is just like you can leave it in the pot, hang it, just like the Tetrapus we did last week. Hang them up. So there's a lot of good air movement. And you notice that even in the pot, when I hang it by the wall, the plant itself, because the gravity, they will go toward the light, and they will do their own. They will kind of pendulum, a 45-degree angle to search in the light. Okay. Okay. So basically try not to have water stay in here. And this is what, there's two theories. There's some people want to be more natural, so they would just kind of leave it, the flower spike there. But the trouble with that is, as you know, belina in the summertime give you a lot of the honey. So then you got this, Jeff, can you see this, the blackest mildew here? That is from the mildew. Now, I have thousands and thousands of plants, and I do not have time to clean them. So preferably, if you want to do it this way, this is actually the best way. This is a more radical way. I think this was done before to be more vertical. But for myself, I like to use the force wire. And I think that Jamie had introduced this before, and I think you can get it from the website. This is the item number. The force wire will be good for 1 year, and the best part of this wire is you can bend them, and because they're so small, they actually give the minimum damage to the root. I generally do not like to use bamboo, and it's really thick bamboo into the belina, because belina is a slow grower, and the root structure is more refined, more finer than some other Phalaenopsis species. So the less destruction or less damage into the root, the better. So kind of like this. So I could do a hook, and I just tilt it that way. And then because they are wire, I can easily bend. So it's still kind of natural looking, but that gives the space between the honey and this. I think this is a better way versus the radical of 45 degree. So I picked this one because that's the way it is to show you. I don't always want you to show you the perfect one. And then once you do that, it's actually easier to clean them. Uh-oh. You can spread it with the alcohol, or I have one of these Clorox. They have already 75% alcohol in there. So once you lift this, our staff always clean the packing area. They always clean this up. Okay, this, and then this is one of, this is, there's no way to get around with this black, the mildew. That's because the healthy plant always going to produce lots of mildew, the honey I call it. And once the honey, because it was associated with high humidity, they always, this mildew is actually a type of fungi, but not the bad fungi. They just attract to the honey, but they leave a black mark. So you can actually just very easily clean it up. Now, if you are taking the plant, the bolina to judging, for example, for either for at an orchid show, for AOA judging, it's always to do this cleaning before the hand, and then you can also wipe it up, the clean up, because in California, our summer is, the water is very, very salty, high EC. So you can, I always get this kind of deposit, salt deposit on the leaf. So this is actually a good way to clean it up, sort of like giving a spot treatment on this plant. All right. Okay, so this is actually the what we call the wild form, but this is actually using the Suruga form, the blue one, the Suruga blue onto the wild form. This is the wild form here. Can you see the difference between the wild form? This is the characteristic of wild form. Very narrow petal. The lateral sepal might be kind of close, and they're very, very disease resistant. Oh, here's another good way to clean them up. How many of you have this, the wild form? We call it belina variety Motonania. Okay, so this is actually as close to the wild species form in the Malaysia as you can get. There's only one award in the American Orchid Society. That was 1977 or 79, awarded in Dallas, Texas. And after that, we never see an award again because the society take effect, so that we no longer can get, they no longer can import them from the wild. So that's why but all these belina species, including this one, we grow at the nursery. We always get it from, we always raise them from seed. You never want to go to collect the wild jungle species anymore, even though I don't think this exists anymore. So this is the wild form. So this is actually using the blue form and cross with this. So what we're trying to do is to add the gene from the wild form. The wild form actually very disease resistant. They're very disease resistant to rotting and also pests. So this is why we do this again. And here is another one of the same blue and the wild form. And again, you see here, the blue one, you should give you 1 or 2 spray. Okay, this is the blue form. Okay, by crossing these two together, we actually get the very vigorous species from the wild strain. And I purposely leave this here. This is another example, and I'm going to use this chance to wire them. Again, I love this wire, and I'm gonna kind of bend them up. There you go. The nice about this wire, you can cut it at any length you want. And Jeff, can you shoot the branching here? you never see a tetrapod belina have branching habit. But look at this one here. With the proper diet of normal orchid food and make it dry, they not only continue to flower here, it's actually doing the branching, and that is from the wild strain. So this is why we do reintroduce the wild species into the belina. So not all the belina are the same. This is why we read the label. The label is very important because, you know, garbage in, garbage out, and that's why you buy from Norman Orchid, because we are very, very serious about what we are doing. We always have a very good record system of what we're doing for breeding. This is it's not something new. This is actually a skill, a good record system that I learned from some of my previous mentor in Orchid, like the late Don Herman, and there you go. See here, and I'm going to use this. I'm going to leave this one up for now. And again, once you pull this up, so I do this. This is more. You get more of this in the summertime when it's hot, warm day and warm night. By the time winter time, you will not have to do that. So if you have something happen to your orchid, especially belina, in the summertime, do not worry. Okay, it's just like your pet, your dog. They also need to go to the groomer to do some grooming. And you lady, you probably go, yeah, and you lady, you probably go to the nail salon. I know Jamie will probably do it every 2 weeks, Jamie? All right, okay, good. So, what about, they also have the Alba form. And this is the banana Alba. And banana Alba genetically are smaller in size. Alba usually about half of the size as a regular one. So Alba one is actually very, very cute. And one of the things about Alba that will be used for breeding a lot is, in case people want to know what, we do have this Alba strain available. This is our best Alba, we call it Casablanca strain. This plant of Alba is just as old as this one here. The same age, but they do not take as big. How do I know? I can tell by how many pair of leaves, and they have 3 spikes on it. This is the best strain of belina in the world. Casablanca by Mount Fuji. Okay, so actually we got this strain from a breeder from Japan, and we've been carrying his line for many years. So belina, 3 spike, and belina Alba, we actually use it a lot for breeding because I like the size of belina Alba. And one of the very successful hybrid with belina Alba is the one I named after Dr. Jim Forsen, who is retired from the Huntington. He's a dear friend. He's the horticulture director of the Huntington Botanic Garden, and he actually trained Brandon Tam. So I actually look at this one here. This is actually Phalaenopsis James F. Forsen, Novice Green Finger by belina Alba. Okay, the reason this has so many flowers because Novice Green Finger, okay, is actually one of the very distant parent of the happy camping. It has the Phalaenopsis species called Mycorrhizae. Mycorrhizae is a micro mini species and have a lot of spike at the base. So this hybrid is, I enter about 12 plants for judging as we speak today, and actually it was two hours ago at the Huntington. I personally think it's an AQ quality. AQ quality means a water quality for type and breeding. It is a, I think it's a breakthrough. Look at this one here, Jeff, both sides. So this is a 4 years old plant. So this become a nice living a flower bouquet. I would just carry it as a wedding bouquet.
Walking down the street?
Walking down the street, a bouquet like this, it's envy. Okay. It's fragrance. Oh, by the way, every plant here, I wish you're here. I wish the podcast have a sense. This is like, you get really hot just smelling all the belina here. The warmer the temperature, the more fragrant. And the fragrant is more like citrus flower. Really depend on what species and what area. I would say the strongest one is the wild strain. All right, the wild strain have all the gene, all the good stuff in there. So we actually, not only we trying to retain the wild species, we also trying to kind of improve. So we're done with that. And this is one of my signature piece. On the belina, they also had what we call the Suruga form. And Suruga form is actually it's a man-made selection, and we keep breeding for more of this brood. If you on this, so what I like about the Suruga strain is they are, well, at least the one for me, they all, I breed for the size. They, in a 2-inch pot, they are capable for flowering size. They are very free blooming on this particular strain. And then we also come out with more of the next generation of Suruga. Now this will satisfy the judges. See the difference in size? Okay, this is my Norman's my new strain of the Suruga. It's going to be bigger plant, but you always buy the big plant if the bigger size if they're available, because this has one spike and the second spike is coming. But this is just as good, I think even better than the one we got at FCC, Jamie, about 3 years ago. So this is actually the next generation. So we're very excited about the Suruga form. And here is another different strand. Oh, this is the same strand. Yeah, never mind. This is the same strand. Look at this. 2 spikes.
They're saying that one's supposed to be 66. Is this one here supposed to be 66? Might be mistaken.
1564. Sorry. Okay, this is 1564. Yes, there's 1564 and 1566. Both of them are very same line. I have this for a while, for a couple of years, but this is the next one. This is the next. If you're looking for something for overall quality, the 2480 is the next big thing. It's always going to be bigger flower for you. Okay, and what really interesting enough is, now this is another Motorola, the wild strain. So the wild strain, this is the younger plant. When they become older, they give you that 1, 2, 3, 4 spike. And look at this. Can you see the back? The back of the flower is also pretty too. The number on this one, okay. The number on this one is actually 2547, 2570. Yeah, this is meant to not for show and tell, but for illustration. But I think it's, I think next in the future, I should number all of them. Oh, yeah. This is actually fantastic. 2570 I apologize. This is the newer strand of the wild one from Yang, from Prince Orchid. So this is actually the wild strand, but he actually did a selection because where he, Yang is a good friend in Thailand, Taiwan. He has, he's in Thailand. The Thailand is just like South Miami, hot and humid. So he can afford to flower 100 or not 1,000 of this. And then I asked him to, Yang, please select. He usually don't get into the number species, but I say, do this for me. Pick the 2 best contrast color for me and do a selection. So this is what he did. He select one clone called Prince, and then he sent a photo to me. I said, yes, that's the one. Self it. So when we do selfing, is actually in genetic, is to reinduce, to stabilize, reinforce the characteristic of what we're looking for, and exactly where we're actually very pleased with the result of this strand. The petal is actually getting wider. They still have that big, what we call arresting shape on the petal, and still had a wild strand of proliferation. Look at all the spike on here, Jeff. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that I said many times, if you are buying orchid, not just from me, for anywhere, whether it's website or at a show, if the bigger ones available, I know it might be $20 more or $30 more, but it's worth every penny, because this plant is at least 2 to 3 years older than this. It takes that much maturity. This is about 4 years old to get to this size. Okay, but once you get to this size, 2 years, 3 years down the line, they really don't get that much bigger, except you have more pair of the leaf. At the same time, hey, they just like people, we get better with age, we get maturity. Look at all this spike here. So they're actually going to reward you with all this spike on them. And if you are going under light, windowsill, perfect. For people in New York, Northeast, your summer is hot and humid, move all this outdoor. Under the porch, protect them from the rain. They will love the extra humidity. I will envy. I wish I can put all my orchid, all my Phalaenopsis outdoor. I did, outdoor in the summertime with the heat, but I had to miss them more often. I think there's one I actually flowering outdoor. I took it here. Yeah, this is the one. You can tell by the leaf. Leaf is kind of whitish, greenish. I actually brought this one outdoor for 4 months and flower outdoor, but it's hot and dry, so I had to always miss them every single day. So if you're in Southern California, yeah, you can do it outside. A lot of my customers do this outdoor. The only thing about belina is they like moist, they like hot temperature, they love the moisture, but they do not like dry, hot, too dry. So if you, and the smaller part, remember, the smaller part, I prefer them to go there in the moss, because the root is very thin versus some other species like nursery, like succulent. So the root is more thinner, they dry out faster. The smaller the part, the faster they dry out. If I go this outdoor in Southern California, I had to water them, hang water twice a week. In the greenhouse, maybe about once a week. But when you get to that big 4-inch pot moss like this, okay, do not overwater them. You just kind of let them dry. You notice that can we see the two-tone here? With the moss, they dry from the bottom and up. But you can tell, this is actually do not need to, I check the water every week, but they actually, the one on the top always don't dry out, so they're dark. But as they dry out, they're going to change color. They're going to turn whitish color and up. And if you are in the northwest or northeast, that your winter is really dry in the greenhouse, in the really colder in the greenhouse and short day, you can actually repot them without breaking the moss. You can actually go in the 6-inch pot, but instead of breaking all the moss out, just take out the top layer and the bottom layer, or any of the old moss, and then just fill it up with medium-sized bark. Okay, that's actually the safest way for a transition from moss to bark. Otherwise, if you doing what we call the strict naked wet, just completely take out all the moss, out of the root, and then put it in the bark. The plant gonna have a shock. They're really gonna shock. Especially right now, it's coming to the winter time, so it's best not to do any repotting. But if you have to do a repotting on the bellina, I would prefer into the bark. I would prefer just fill it up around with the bark, so that the root gradually used to the drier area. But never, unless the moss is so decayed and you do not have any good root left, I generally do not recommend to take out all the moss if you want to go from moss to bark. I believe we do have a podcast last year on repotting moss to bark, bark to moss. So go back to if you subscribe to the channel, go back to the video again. Let me know if let us know if you don't understand. Maybe we can do another special one. I know we have a lot of new members since last year. We now it's over 3,000. If you are new, please, we now release some of the video. The Jeff, so nice. He go back, he added it up, and he posts on the YouTube channel. Okay. All right. How are we doing so far? Any question? Okay. What about the problem, the disease? Okay. As I go walk through the nursery, this is what I saw. You see here? Can we do a spot check? Okay. This, whatever you do, you see here the white stuff here? Do not touch it. That is the fungus spore, mycelium. Okay. And it started when the leaf coming up are small. They're very soft, very thin. That's just the bellina's very thin leaf. So it probably when we move in the orchid, so it might have I suspect, judging this, you see the mycelium in the back? Okay. It's not a bacteria, it's not Iranian. Iranian will be just, ooh, in 2 days, go all the way here. This is actually a fungi. Okay, this is how you can tell. Another way to tell whether it's a Iranian bacteria is smell. The Iranian will give you a very rotten meat odor. So the easiest way for this, and make sure you do not touch that covered area. I usually, and this is the type, I usually like to have the single edge braid. They're very sharp. So I usually have them around, and then after I use this, I just throw it away. Put in the, so you see here? You want at least 2 inches. So this is when I do what I call a surgical. I would remove the entire area. It doesn't do the good one and it's ugly. So by removing this, you still have a beautiful natural shape on this. Then you might just put this in the plastic bag, covers it, and then throw it away. Do not put it in the trash can in the greenhouse, because they're just going to rot it and accumulate more the fungi in the greenhouse or in your growing area. So I always, this is why I love this Clorox tissue paper. And then once you cut them, you separate them, leave it alone or hang it up. I'm gonna hang this higher. So I'm gonna hang it higher, so they do not get water or do not get missed it next time. And I'm going to show you. Can you show the color on this one here? Dr. Harold Cooper is actually in writing. There should be an article published the next issue of Orchid Digest. This is the new color form of belina. It's not pink. It's actually better than the pink. This is actually a chance mutation of the wild form of Montclair. I'm going to kind of use this. I'm going to use a wire. A chance color form. Okay, they are open up pink, green, just like belina. And then as the flower age, they have, when the first open is green, and they have all had a pink brush, and the lip is brush. And we flower about maybe 2 or 3, and then Harold is going to submit and identify and call it a special color form of belina. So don't worry, we are actually doing some sibling. So if you want really a good true belina pink, do not. There are some pink. You know, I actually bought some pink seeding from a breeder. Believe me, then maybe 2 out of 100 will be pink. And I think Sunny was so lucky. Sunny got one of the lighter pink. But Sunny, this is better, the really true pink, big flower, than anybody's pink in the world. So we are actually working on this. So do not, there's lots of so-called fake belina pink. They are actually just belina Alba with a touch of a pink in the center. But a true belina pink is actually a color saturation like this. Okay, and then look at the back of the flower too. It's wonderful color. It's green form, and they still have that wild strand form color. All right, so it's very exciting. You know, this is why on my talk for the new color form of the Phalaenopsis species. This is one of the third reason why we get a new color form, because as the breed people are interested in species. The grower like myself, we will grow more population of it, and the more population of it, the expression of the gene in genetic can come up, maybe 1 in 1,000 plant. So this is the result. So we are actually very excited for this plant. So by all means, Phalaenopsis species should be in everybody's Phalaenopsis collection, because species never go out of fashion. Okay, it's one of, and any question? So,
this one's not available right now.
huh?
There's no number on this one.
This is not available. We're still working on it. This is just ING. This has happened this year. So we only identified 3 of them. So the best way for us right now is we do a selfing. We do a lot of way. We do a selfing, and this is probably the darkest one I have seen. Okay, so we do a selfing, we do a sibling, and in 2 years we will know if we have viable seed. I think there will be viable seed. So maybe just be patient with me. Just you know, there maybe 2-3 years we have some of the seeding available. Okay. But you're the first one to know about this. This is not even published yet. Okay. But
Sherry is asking, how long can belina live?
How long has belina lived? The belina, the wild strain from my friend in Malaysia, it was a jungle plant, and it was from his grandfather's collection for 50 years. So when grandfather passed away, you know, he grew up with his grandfather taking care of his garden, so he inherited. So he is from that garden 50 years ago. So how long do they live? They will live as long as we live. And this is why I make a mission to, I actually allow all this color form. Eventually, Huntington Botanic Garden will have several copies of all the different color form. And Brandon, I'm actually we helping with the Phal fanatic. We actually Huntington is only 30 minutes from here, and they have a beautiful conservatory. And when we do have a chance for a face-to-face symposium next year, okay, we'll be at Huntington, okay, and then Brandon will show you where he mount some of the species of the Phalaenopsis in his conservatory. And I may tell you, when they are mounted on the tree, that the natural way, they are very, very impressive. And just so they'll be there for 100 years to come. Huntington Botanical Garden is 100 years old. There are some cactus is in there since the day they opened, right? Yeah. Okay. But they basically follow this. Bolina, if they have mildew, the black mildew, do not panic. That is just from the honey, okay? And they actually pass on that characteristic to the hybrid also. So, for example, samurai is Bolina by Malaysia. Any of the modern novelty Phalaenopsis we have today all trace back to Bolina and Malaysia. So now you know where the novelty Phalaenopsis, especially the green flower and the fragrant, coming from. They all have the belina in the breeding background. Okay. And another issue is, what about here? Sometimes we have this. This is very common in the novelty Phalaenopsis, and this one here is perfect example. This is not fungi, but this is my fault because, that I said many times, my water here in the summertime is EC is really high. Generally speaking, the water or the fertilizer water, your EC, the salt content cannot be more than 1. Okay, so this is actually what we call the EC burn from the salt water. So it could be, by the time we have water and fertilizer, the EC higher than 1. A lot of time, the hybrid is more tolerant, but the species, the belina, okay, that's why I always envy people in New York. Now, the Hudson River area is beautiful water, or if you're Pacific Northwest, you have beautiful water, okay? But I always believe in the philosophy is growing them with the tap water, because majority of my customers are using tap water. A lot of orchid nursery will go through the expense. We do have our water system, but we do not use it anymore. Well, actually, we cannot afford it, because to make 1 gallon of RO water, reverse osmosis water, it takes 7 gallons of water to make. And California, we have a water crisis, and the water bill is triple. The more you use it, they actually penalize you. So it's actually better to grow the way people grow. So this is why a lot of time my orchid very easy adapt to an average homeowner's situation. But if you if you go under light, you do not have a lot of orchid, for example, by all means, just go get some distilled water, but do not use water have salt. What kind of water has salt? Photo treatment had the.
That's the salt water that people use at home, the conditioned water.
Yeah, but just use the regular filtered water, but not the filtered water with the salt in there. Okay, or just buy a gallon of the distilled water. It's just like distilled water, just as good as our water. Our waters tend to take out everything.
Yeah, softened water. You don't want softened water.
You do not want to use water softener. Okay, so when you situation like this is to give me an indication is, hello, they got too salty. So they're too sensitive. Again, we get another. There's nothing wrong. The best way is to get a single edge razor blade. And I'm going to do it as a surgical way. The natural way, just give it a cut like this. Voila. And again, put them in the plastic bag or tissue paper. and just throw them away and then set them aside for at least a week, so that way they have a time to heal. And actually the next watering, it won't hurt to spray them with Phalaenopsis on them. Okay. So a lot of this, for example, we have the young blue dragonfly, we have young blueberry. They all have belina, tetrapods in there. That's why if you have any young blueberry, the blue is actually from bolina Suruga. And also, remember the happy campaign? Happy campaign also have the belina in the background. That's why you see all this green here. Okay, and this is a complex hybrid. Many of you have happy campaign. We just released the happy campaign again. If you don't have a happy campaign, you can order happy campaign from the website. But Jamie, sometimes she go through my happy campaign and she handpicked the best one for the jumper. But happy campaign also have belina in the background. That's why happy campaign is so fragrant. And the fragrance actually is different than the straight species because they have tetrapods in the background, and also the mycorrhizae. Remember the mycorrhizae to make this hybrid. Okay, so belina is fun, but you should have it in your collection. Go under light, windowsill, golden warm. Sunny did a good job. If you go under light in the winter time, get the heat mat. Okay, for all your belina, especially belina violets there, and turn on the night temperature, minimum night temperature, the heat mat to 65 degrees. And with the 12-hour light, daylight, you can have belina flower all winter long. My belina in the greenhouse stop by November, because by November, 4 o'clock, it's a night shade. It's a nighttime, and we only get light about maybe 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock. So that's when they go to sleep. But if you go under light, you actually can do a better job than I do in the greenhouse. They will not stop, and then you can keep feeding them with the heat mat. You can have more flower throughout the winter for you. All right. So this is about the thing I have to offer on the belina. Always buy the biggest plant available if your budget is can afford. And other than that, happy orchid growing and enjoy the belina, because they've been really treasured by the customer all summer long for the belina. And I will do the Valencia type next week. All right. Thank you very much, and I will